Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. You might have noticed we got a little new intro.
An epic intro.
One deserving of a superhero team or podcast or whatever. I don't know. We don't only do superhero stuff, but you know, we cover a lot of superhero stuff. But
specifically, so we have to give a shout out.
Yeah, big shout out to a fan of ours who does music. His name is Pasta Cat Studios. Is that what it is? Pasta Cat Music. Pasta Cat Music, I think.
Yeah.
So you can look him up, Pasta Cat Music, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he does some epic arrangements. So.
Yeah. So he does arrangements that you don't even think of. Do you like that song Old Town Road? Do you like Irish folk music?
Irish jigs?
Well, guess what? he did a cover where they're together, and he does like really awesome epic stuff, like our cover or our intro, and then he does like kind of his own stuff too, and then like some fun like mixes. Yeah. It's cool stuff. Check it out.
He's got a couple albums too. He's got an 8-bit video game sounding album, and he's got I guess it'd be called Posi something orchestral.
Yeah, orchestral.
He's really good at orchestral stuff. So, I mean, this guy should be scoring movies and stuff. So, give him a listen if you will. But music. Thank you again, Pasta Cat.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And so anyway, this week we're doing a little comic you might have heard of. It's got a little buzz this week specifically because we didn't time this either. We were just, hey, we should read stuff. And then it was like, hey, that's coming out. So this week, you might have heard the show on Amazon Prime. The animated show just came out called Invincible. And we're reading the comic Invincible that it's based off of. It just kind of worked out that way. We actually did not plan that at all. And then John was like, wait a second. That's coming out this Friday. And I'm like, oh, cool. Well, that'll be good.
Well, that'll be good timing.
Yeah. So, and we instead of reading one volume, because I have already read this and John had not. So I knew a little, like we should read more than just the first volume. So we actually read the first 2 volumes, which is the first 8 issues of the series.
Yeah, it's a really quick read anyway.
Very quick. Yeah. And I would highly recommend that to anybody, especially if you're like used to reading superhero stuff. If you never read superhero, then you could pick up the first trade and be like, yeah, it's fine. It's good. But like, it's definitely, it's trying to lull you into a sense of, yeah, I know what this is. It's a superhero origin story or whatever. And what it turns into is a violent massacre of a book. So I got to say, reading this the first time when I was like 19 or 20, I was just like, what the fuck? Like, because I think I read like the hardcovers came out, and I think it was like the first 12 issues in the hardcover. And so I read that and was like, Jesus Christ. So that's why I was like, we got to read at least the first 2 volumes.
Because it starts out super innocent, very standardy, like almost like I'm Spider-Man and this is how I got my power. So it's like, I'm invincible and this is how I got my power.
I'm a kid and I got a family and we're good and happy.
Yeah. The only difference is like, because we'll just kind of get into it, is that he is part of a superhero film already. His dad.
Yeah. His dad is this character called Omni-Man, which for all intents and purposes is Superman.
Superman-ish, yeah.
And he's like got all the powers that like, you know, Superman would have.
Yeah, strength, he flies.
Yeah, all that stuff. So you get some interesting stuff with his dad, because his dad's like, oh, we're a race called Vulture Mites and stuff. Like when he's there's like a scene where he's telling his son about it. Like when his son's like, Dad, I feel different. He's like, you're about to feel different, son. You're going to get like hair in weird places and you're going to start liking girls. And Also, you're an alien race called Vulturemites, and I'm Omni-Man, and
it looks kind of cool because he's like, it's like a perfect society. There's no illness, there's no war, there's no nothing, and so I guess they send people out. Yeah, and they send out people on these like they volunteer and they go on these little like we're gonna do like fact finding missions and like go to these different planets and learn everything about everybody.
Nothing bad or weird about that.
Definitely.
And so this is actually very similar to me to like Dragon Ball or something where like we send a Saiyan to a planet and then, they're supposed to take over the planet and then, then we incorporate them, although they don't sell the planets or whatever. But since you don't know future stuff about things, I will try not to spoil anything for you. But
obviously it's more than that. I'm excited.
I mean, you can tell from the end of this issue, it's more, or the end of his trades, it's more than that. So I was hoping you would already figure that out.
Oh no, I thought that just happened on accident.
Oh, he slipped. He slipped. And anyway, we won't spoil the end yet, but we're not going to bury that lead. But for sure, this comic starts out very unassuming. It's very like, standard superhero. I've read this before, especially if you've read like Spider-Man or one of those. This kid is finding his powers, and his dad's helping him out, and you also get to see like how the family dynamic is with the dad. Like the mom's always like making dinner, and then the dad just flies in and is like, "Hey, how's it going?" And she's like, "Oh, you're like an hour late for dinner," and he's like, "Sorry about that, but like, monster." Or whatever.
I was saving it. Yeah. They turn on like they were turn on the TV at one point, and they're like, "Wait, like, have you seen your father?" "No, I haven't seen him yet." And they turn on the TV, and like, downtown there's a big dragon, and
yeah, and so like that's like how he goes through life. Basically, is now he's in high school. He knows his dad's Omni-Man. He's kind of been waiting for his powers to kick in, and they finally do. One day. Like the comic starts with him not having powers and him being like, "You said this was going to happen like 4 years ago, Dad, and it hasn't happened yet." And like I got the girls, like liking the girls thing. I've hit puberty. I got hair in weird places, but I haven't got my powers yet. And then finally, after work one day, he is throwing away the trash, and the bag. He like goes to chuck the bag into the dumpster, and it just flies into space.
Yeah,
and he's like, "It's about time! Like, finally, I got superpowers." So. But yeah, the dad, it seems like isn't a bad dad either. Like he's trying to be there for the dinners and the important stuff. And him and the mom actually have like a relationship where they like have sex and,
yeah, like I mean, they obviously are in love. You can tell
they're
like,
in love.
She worries about him and, he always like, "It's okay, honey. Everything's going to be fine." And it's.
Yeah. And so basically like, we find like he tells his parents, "Oh, I got my powers," and they're like, "Oh, that's good. We should train sometime." But then like you see him try to kind of go on his own without training, and see him fight some bank robbers or whatever, or jewelry robbers, and like it doesn't go as well as he would have hoped. And then the dad's like, "Well, you like we need to get you a better suit because first things first." He like just threw on like a scarf, bandana.
Yeah, I like that. The guys that rob the jewelry store are like, "Are you here to fight us or rob us?"
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was funny. But
there's little humor in this one that's really fun.
Yes, and in this one, that's the thing. Like Robert Kirkman, this was at the time he just had Walking Dead and this, and it was kind of like, wow, they like are totally different books. This one's kind of funny superhero, and that's like very violent gore.
Yeah,
whatever.
We jumped in. I'm so sorry. This one is by Robert Kirkman.
Yes, we didn't say. It's by Robert Kirkman. This original story, the first 8 issues that we read, are by Corey Walker, as on the art, and he was the only thing that we kind of like nitpicked at on this, or at least that I nitpicked at.
Yeah, I was fine. Like it was serviceable.
It's fine. I was surprised though because I am used to Ryan Otley, who did the series for over like 120 issues. I don't know where he starts. I think it's after issue 8 or 12 or something.
Definitely after 8.
But definitely after 8 because this guy Corey Walker drew all that stuff, and you're not a terrible artist or anything. It's serviceable. It just ain't Ryan Otley. And I was like, what is wrong with this art? Like, why is this not Ryan Otley?
And I'll make a specific note. Like, I know that Matt is like this for a long time because I remember when I first met him years ago, he actually had a poster of Invincible up in his room, and yeah, like he was badass looking.
This was in 2006.
Yeah, and so yeah, like looking at this, and then he showed me the difference of when the other artist comes in. I was like, oh, I remember like that poster, and then he showed me some other art in it, and it's night and day.
It's just the detail.
Yeah, it's like
there.
It's like good, like so, like yeah. This comic here with Corey Walker, it is like it's serviceable. It looks fine. Like there's no like hardcore detail. It's you're getting the story and that's good. And then go to Ryan Otley and it's like fine detail. Like he looks way more muscular.
Yeah,
everything
and not like
well fleshed out.
Yeah, like he looks like a superhero, and I guess it kind of makes sense for these early issues that he's a kid in a costume in these first ones. Maybe he hasn't got the definition yet, but there was just lack of definition that I wanted or that I remembered in the series that I was like, oh yeah, Ryan Otley didn't draw the first couple issues or whatever, or at least the first 8. And so, but the first trade is kind of like by the numbers superhero stuff, except there's one storyline that kind of shows you this is a little bit different than a regular comic book. There's kids have been going missing and then like showing up exploding and shit. They have like bombs tied to them that are like part of their nervous
and they'll wake up at like
whatever.
the mall and
and then all of a sudden they're like, what's going on? And it'll like blow up the whole fucking mall. And like, so we're like, wow, okay, like kids are dying. That's kind of an intense storyline for a superhero comic, like, and pretty graphically blowing up. And then like you find out that the main bad guy who's doing this is a teacher that was like a jerk to him earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And like he's like the chemistry teacher or whatever, and it's just like, like he's just been going around and kidnapping kids that are responsible for bullying his son into killing himself.
Yeah.
So right there, you're like, okay, that's a pretty heavy storyline. But then he's kidnapping these kids
and then making them kill themselves.
Yes, exactly. And so, it's. Making them explode. Like he's tying this thing to their chest. Oh, and it reminded me, and I don't know when this happened. There was actually a bank robbery that happened where like a guy had like a collar bomb put on his neck, and he said like, "Oh, someone put it on me, and they told me to like tell you to fill up this bag with money," and then like the cops didn't do it, and eventually it did explode, and it was like super fucked up.
I don't remember this at all.
This was like a while ago. I can't remember what the name of it is, and it turns out he was in on it, kind of, or something, or possibly in on it. I think there's some speculation or like conspiracy theory that like he wasn't or he was, or they're not all the details are known, but definitely there was a family or something that put this collar on him and that he was part of, friends with or something, and then turns out he thought it was a fake bomb or something like that. Or he thought it was a fake bomb, but then it ended up being real. And then,
wow.
So it was just this whole mess. But it reminded me of that, where like this guy is like strapping these things to people's chests, and it's like tied to their adrenal glands or something. I think they said once they start freaking out or whatever, then it like goes off, and there's like a timer set by that. And so it like is super fucked up. It also kind of reminded me of Buffy, the first season of Buffy, where like at first you're like, okay, this is a standard teen drama thing, and then you're like, okay, but she fights vampires. That's the wacky thing about this. And then you find out, like, I think the first story that I was like, oh, this is kind of a different story was when, or a different TV show, was when the kids get turned or possessed by hyena spirits and they eat the principal.
Oh yeah.
I was like, wow. Like, I did not think, because they make the principal seem fairly like important and like main character-y, like, yo, we're gonna run into him a lot. He obviously butts heads with Buffy, and then like then they eat him, and then you're like, oh, I was wrong. Like, apparently I misjudged how important he was or whatever. So it was kind of like that, where like this character, he's a dick teacher or whatever at first, or like kind of like what he does is Invincible is talking to a girl in class, and then he's like, listen, you could talk to your girlfriend after class or whatever. And then he's like, she's not my girlfriend, she's my friend. And like, he kind of called them out in front of everybody. And he was like, oh, I didn't realize. But anyway, stop talking, in class. So, it was like, the fact that he was that evil, where he's like murdering his,
yeah,
class kids or whatever. But it was like, oh, but also they bullied his son into killing himself. So it's kind of like a fucked up all around thing. And that's the kind of first hint that this isn't a normal superhero story, whatever. So, yeah. And then, like you said, we get like a history of the dad and like what happened to him and like why he's on Earth and how he met his mom, or Invincible's mom. We should say what's his actual name? I said Invincible, but
Mark Grayson.
Mark, that's his first name's Mark. So I never remembered any of their actual names. It was all just Omni-Man and
Mom
and Mom.
Invincible, yeah.
Exactly. So if we missed some of those, apologize. But go read the comic if you want to learn their actual names. So, but yeah. So we get like a little brief history of the dad and why he's there and how he met the mom. And it was basically like a Superman scenario where like he saved her from a falling thing, and then like she was like, oh, and he's like, oh, and then like, and then Mark happened. But yeah, and then Invincible, he's like we said, he's learning his powers in this one. He goes around, he fights a couple people, and he basically joins this group that are like the Teen Titans, but they're, what are they called? I think they're like the I don't know, I can't remember what they're called, but like it's some like the Teen Titans basically. So there's like a robot who's with them, and the Teen Team, I think they're called that. They're simply called the Teen, I believe, or Team, I believe.
Well, I was kind of remember because there's that other group too. There's the Guardians.
Yeah, there's the Guardians of the World, who's Globe. Like, or Guardians of the Globe, which is like the Justice League.
Yeah,
and then there's like, and they're literally the Justice League, like almost analog for analog. Everybody's the same. They have a Martian, they have a speedster, they have a Superman type, and then they also have their Aquaman is my favorite. He's just a fish.
He's a fish guy.
He actually looks like a fish.
When we get to that, because that was one of my favorite scenes.
Yes, but the first group he gets approached with is the Teen Team, I believe is their name, and they're a robot,
which is named Robot.
He's like, yeah, he says, we're the Teen Team. I'm Robot, and you met Adam Eve. So there's Adam spelled like an atom bomb. Yeah, Eve, who is actually the classmate that was sitting next to him in class talking to him in that teacher's class where he called him out. Yeah. And then there's a dude named Rexplode, who's her boyfriend, and then this other girl named Duplicate, who can obviously duplicate herself into threes. I think she's got three usually,
at least three
herself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, basically they help him fight some clone brothers. I don't know what their names are, but they're like these blue guys that clone them. Well, actually, they argue with each other about which one is the clone because they never know which one is the real one and which one was the clone. So they are always like, well, only a clone would be stupid enough to do that against Invincible or whatever. He's like, well, no, I came up with the plan, so obviously you're the clone. Like, so they argue with each other, which is kind of funny. But yeah, like basically he joins this team as he becomes friends with Adam Eve in school and everything, and helps them out a bit.
I love that like the next day in school, hey, like it is you, Adam Eve, and she's like, what? How did you recognize me? He's like, you don't wear a mask.
Yeah. She literally doesn't wear a mask.
It's
or
like
anything.
The little superhero tropes and like the way they poke at some of them are really funny.
Yeah, and so that was interesting, and then they show like kind of comic book trope stuff in this, where they kind of poke fun at it, where like the dad, like Martians start to attack the Earth, and then the dad comes to save him, but he gets sucked in by them into their like portal, where they like the wormhole they were brought there with, and then he's like gone for like an issue or whatever, and then the next issue she's like, I haven't seen your dad. The mom's like, I haven't seen your dad for a while. Do you know where he is? And they're like. And then all of a sudden the dad comes back and he's like, I need a shave. And he's got a full beard. And you're like, yeah, he's only gone for a day.
But I think it's been like 3 or 4 days, in real world time.
Yes, but in our world. But apparently where he was, he's like, I don't know how long I was there, maybe 6 months.
I think it was like 6 or 8 months. He had
That's what he told the wife. He told the wife, oh, I was there for like 6 months, but it was just their time.
He got imprisoned. He had to like start a revolt in the prison to escape.
Yeah, all this crazy shit happens, and it's just funny because like that's like very. They don't even go. We don't follow him at all. He just tells us this like it's just a normal thing that happens. And he's like, "Don't tell your mom how long it was actually, though, because it could have been like years. I was over there, but you know." To which I was like, "Do you have like an alien son now, or like do you have a second family in that wormhole that you went into?" But yeah, like it just seemed like there was a lot going on with the dad, but the mom, you know, she's human, so she's kind of learned to live with Omni-Man being gone and just assuming he'll be okay.
He'll be okay. He'll be back.
Yeah. And so that was interesting for sure. That and like the first trade is just these like 4 issues. So it's pretty like simple how they started off kind of thing.
I like they keep hinting at Invincible liking Adam Eve. And like, because like robots, like I see that you're, but you have to, but you know that she
has a boyfriend.
Yeah, she's got. Why do you keep hitting on her? She has a boyfriend.
Yeah, he's like, no, I don't like her like that. We're just friends. And so they're really pushing that or whatever. So
yeah, like obviously something is coming about there.
Possibly. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of like the first one is just, you know, finding out that teacher is actually the guy who's been kidnapping kids and, you know, strapping bombs to them.
Yeah. And that ends with the teacher's like, oh yeah, you can take me into the police. I won't like run away or whatever. He's like, okay. And then that's because he has a bomb strapped to himself, and he's like, I'll take, you know, you out with me then. And but Invincible like pulls him up in the air and like just punches him away really far. And
yeah, and he like when in doubt, throw into space.
Yeah, throw into space.
So yeah, like that's the first story arc basically where you find out, okay, you know, you get to see some stuff is very much like superhero tropey, where, you know, it's usual superhero stuff. So much so that you're kind of like, oh, this is like very pedantic and by the numbers. And it's supposed to be like that because then you get the second trade. And the second trade is much more fucked up. So even though the first one had some, like it sprinkled it, like here's some fucked up stuff for you to like, oh, this isn't a normal world. But it wasn't overly bloody necessarily or overly violent, I didn't think. Maybe because it's an Image book. I don't know if we said that earlier. This is an Image book. So it's not one of the big two. It's not Marvel or DC. And they can't show as much violence, well, generally, as, you know, Image can. So Image can get a little bit more bloody on the page. But this is like even more than that normally. Yeah. And it's supposed to be because it's supposed to take you out of it later on when we get to that bloodiness. But, yeah, so... it definitely chapter 4 of this one, or which is number 8, is where Ryan Ottley becomes the main artist. So, and you definitely tell because he really, really picks up like whoa, a lot more detail in this one. So, but it starts right off. I thought this was like a funny story arc. How this first issue. Mark's studying in his room and he gets a call from his dad, and his dad's like, I need you to go up to like this area in space.
In space.
He's like, in space? He's like, you can hold your breath. Don't worry about it.
He's like, Dad, how long can, you know, I know I'm super, but how long can I hold my breath? He's like, I can hold my breath for up to like, I think he says like 8 weeks or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So you can definitely hold it for a couple hours.
At least a couple hours. And so he's like, oh, okay, you know. So he's like, just meet at this place. You know, something bad's coming. You know, just you'll know when you get there or whatever. And so he goes, you know, takes a deep breath, goes into space, and then he's like, now what? And then all of a sudden he gets sucker punched by some alien that's just flying around. He's got one big cyclops eye, and I like this character a lot. He's super fun. But like they start fighting, and he starts talking to Mark like telekinetically, like in his head. So he's like, oh wait, you're new. Like you're not the guy that I fought last time. That's interesting. And then Invincible's like, wait, how are you talking in my head? He's like, how else would I talk to you in space? Like you can't talk in space or whatever. And so he's like, oh, true. He's like, so they start kind of fighting, and he's like giving Invincible kind of pointers also. So you're like, wait, is this guy evil or what's going on? He's like, you can't throw me anywhere in space and it won't hurt me because no gravity and I'll just stop wherever I want to stop. And you have to throw me like into the moon or some shit like that. And then he's like, oh, thanks for the tip. And then he like throws him into the moon or whatever. Like, so shit like that was funny. But this alien, like is basically a friend who's like works for, I guess, like the space EU basically. And he's essentially, like an or like a, what's it called? Like the people who give ratings at restaurants, like a food, like.
Oh yeah, so he's like the person inspector.
Yeah, he's an FDA inspector or restaurant inspector, like a food inspector. So he'll like walk in to a planet and be like, "I'm your superhero inspector," and then fight you. And then if you can like best him or whatever, then he's like, "Okay, you're a well defended planet."
Yeah, he's an evaluation officer.
Evaluation officer.
Yeah, he's looking to every place that in this system has a champion of that plan or whatever, and he evaluates him. His name is Alan, by the way.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Fantastic.
Very simple.
Alan the alien.
Yep.
And so he's like, and he's confused because he thinks this is the dad, and he's like, wow, you look a lot younger still. Like, don't you remember the last time you like tried this when you were fighting me? And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I've never fought you before. And he's like, you did look kind of young under there. But he's talking about his dad. He's fought his dad before, and apparently he's come by Earth every 3 years to evaluate. And then so they fight, and Invincible does okay, holds his own, and then he's like, perfect. Well, that was the evaluation. And he's like, evaluation? What are you talking about? And he's like, well, let me explain. And he like explains that he's an evaluation officer and he's got to do this stuff. And then he's like, yeah, I'm the evaluation for Urath. And he's like, Urath? What the hell is Urath? He's like, this place, isn't it? And he's like, no, this is Earth with an E, not you. And he's like, oh crap. Yeah. He's like, man, I've missed Urath's evaluation for like 15 years.
Yeah.
So basically the dad's been fighting this guy for 15 years for no reason, but the dad just fights him and they never talk. Whereas Invincible was like, what's going on with this? Like, why are you being so weird or whatever? So it turns out actually, him talking was like good.
Good,
like,
yeah, that's how.
So it's not always about fighting, Dad. It's not always about fighting.
Yeah, his dad, when they get back down, he's like, man, you were finished with that early. He's like, yeah, I talked to him. He wasn't even supposed to be here.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's fine. I always just went up and punched him when I saw him coming.
Yeah. So that's pretty much that issue. It's just this fight. And then he comes back. I thought this was funny. He comes back. He's got a Science Dog poster on his wall, which is actually another comic written by Robert Kirkman. But then he comes back and he's like, oh, fuck, I forgot I had homework still. So he's like, he's still got to finish his homework even though he's tired. So then, like, we get some father-son bonding. We're like,
they're playing catch around the world.
Around the world. So, yeah, the dad and him are facing back to back. And so the dad's talking to him, but he's talking away from him. He'll throw the ball, and then, like, 10 seconds later, the ball will end up coming towards Invincible. Yeah. So, it's kind of funny how they play catch. But, yeah, basically, they're trying to just, help him learn kind of thing. And this is the one where we see that there's a lot of love still between the father and the mom or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, are you gonna do? No, Dad's taking the day off. You have a good day at school or whatever, son.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm staying home with your mom, having some quality time.
Wink. and of course Mark's like, ew, I never need to know that. It's like, what's away? But yeah, so we get kind of more initiated into the teens. The teen team and what's going on with them, but
and we also, this is always where we hear about the first mention of the Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah, they're doing like,
I guess kind of like auditions.
Yeah, like to see, because I guess one of their members lost his powers, so now we're like, okay, we need someone to replace him. So they're doing, like, some people in the teen team are like, oh, well, I'm going to audition for, this, and it's going to be awesome. There was one thing I didn't quite understand. There's like this weird thing that bursts out of the school. That's like this cyborg we'll
robot thing. Yeah.
Do you know what that was? He just bursts out of the school one day while Invincible's at school, and then like nothing ever happens in this from it. So I'm assuming he's just planting a seed about like what was that? And
I
then,
think
like,
must be
address it later. I remember seeing those in the comic earlier, like later on, but I don't remember like what they're about. But basically, these weird cyborgs that apparently were like bursting out of the school, but then like kills itself. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but like it seemed like it killed itself on this big spike at school. It was just kind of weird to me. It comes out of nowhere, and then it's done. So
he doesn't really have to fight it.
All right, that was weird, but it killed itself.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to school. This school is just like Buffy. Just shit happens at this school.
And then everybody's like,
stuff.
And like there's an explosion, and everybody looks, and they're like, okay, and then they just go
anyway,
back to, like,
anyway, back to Division or whatever. So, yeah,
I do like when Invincible comes home and his dad like hears him coming up the steps. He's like, quick, and like so they like he flies around and like redoes it, puts everything back in place that it was moved, and they come in and he's like,
they're sitting on the couch, the mom and the dad,
and he's like, oh, like I didn't need to know. Yeah, this was happening still, and the mom looks down. She's like, "You put my shirt on backwards."
It's like, "Oh, sorry, it was doing it fast." Like that was funny. And then the end of the second issue where Adam Eve like flies home from her like I guess school day or whatever.
Yeah, your school or her audition for the.
Yeah, that might have been what it was. But she comes back to the team like headquarters, the team's headquarters, and she just like freaks out. And at first you're like, "What? What's going on?" Because the issue ends with her flying to like their thing is on top of a bridge, like their headquarters. So which is funny. It reminds me of like the Teen Titans, Big T,
yeah,
just sitting in the middle of nowhere. But so this is on a bridge. She like goes in and she's like, "Is that it? Hello, is anyone here?" And then she just looks and sees something. We don't see what she sees, and then she just goes like, "No." And then she like curls up into a ball, and then that's the end of the issue.
Yeah, I thought people were dead or something.
Yeah, I was like, what just happened? But so anyway, we don't know what happens, but until later. But basically, we find out that her boyfriend Rexplode and Duplicate. We're having a foursome or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It was because she specifically like when she talks to Invincible later about it, and she's like, it was the two of them, and it wasn't just two of them.
Yeah, it was all of the Kates
and
him or whatever. So I don't know. It makes it even worse.
Yeah, it makes it horrible.
Yeah, but so and then after this is kind of where we get introduced to the Guardians of the Globe. We see there's obviously a Batman archetype. There's, he's fighting crime on the streets or whatever. And then we get like a Flash who's like a Russian dude who saves people, who's super fast. It's funny with his thing, his girlfriend is not special or whatever, not super powered, and they're at a picnic and he keeps like running, putting on his costume, saving people and running back before they finish, the conversation that they were having. So she doesn't even notice it until he comes back one time without changing. So he's got his costume on and she's like, "What the fuck? Like you said you were going to have like a day without anything." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Look, I'm trying to save people." And she's like, "God damn it." And then like he gets a little ring from he gets called away. Batman gets called away when we get introduced to him. It's like a distress signal.
It's the Guardians of the Globe. Everybody come back to the headquarters.
Something's going on. Then we get Wonder Woman's analogy or archetype. I don't remember what she's called. War Woman. That's right.
Yeah.
I was like Warrior Woman, something like that. But yeah, basically, see, she's got a girlfriend. So she's gay in this, and basically it kind of goes through her past where she's like basically a god. She's the daughter of like gods or whatever, kind of like the newer revamped origin of Diana. Wonder Woman, instead of just being like, "Oh, it was clay," and they like
made her,
they like gave me life or whatever. But like, so anyway. We see like a little bit of her history, and then she gets called away as well. And then this is the best one.
This is the best one, yeah.
So we go to Atlantis, it says, and there's just a fish man sitting on a throne, and nothing's happening.
He just looks. He just like, I wish something would have happened.
I'm under the ocean, sitting on my throne, and then like his watch goes off. And he's like, finally, some action. And he starts flying or swimming, I should say, swimming away. And then you see like there's a Martian Manhunter dude who's like fighting some guy in space. And then we see the guy that plays the Martian can like change. His name's Martian Man too, which is great. There's Martian Man without the
Martian
hunter.
Man.
Yeah. And he could become human just like Martian Manhunter. Then there's a guy, I don't know who this is supposed to be an analog for, but he's got to like swallow something, this like weird thing. And when he does, he becomes the green, what is it? Like the green
I guess maybe it's a Green Lantern archetype.
It might be.
Instead of a ring, he has to like.
He's like the Green Ghost because he has to like. He doesn't make. He like can teleport. He's like Katie Pryde.
Katie Pryde, okay.
Or Kitty Pryde, I mean. So like he can go through stuff like her. So he's not like Green Lantern, but I don't know. He just has a weird thing he has to keep, like a trinket that he has to keep inside his body so that he can have this power or whatever. So he has to like throw it up in between using it or whatever. So he's like, God damn it, I forgot to wash this thing. Or like he throws it up, then they're like, oh my God, we got our emergency call. And he's like, God damn it, I don't have time to wash it. And then he's got to like swallow his like vomit covered trinket or whatever. Thing, yeah, so it's weird. But anyway, so they and then we see the main guy, his name's what's his name? The Immortal.
The Immortal.
So he's the Immortal is basically your Superman. And he's super strong and super powerful, and he's like fighting this guy, and the guy's like, I will not, I'm like gonna go out with a bang. I found out I have cancer, so there's nothing left for me to lose, and you're all gonna die. Denver will be glowing and everything because he's got like a atomic bomb. And then the Immortal's like, good to know, and he just like throws him, and he's like, when in doubt, throw into space. Because he doesn't have anywhere to put him. So, like, either blow up and make Denver nuclear or throw him into space. So, I thought that was funny. He also gets called away right after he does that. Then they go to their headquarters, and everybody's like, oh, finally, you're here. What's this about? And he's like, what do you mean, what's this about? Didn't one of you call the emergency? And then you just see all of them getting murdered.
Yeah.
You see...
like, Fish guy gets decapitated.
Yeah. Fish guy gets decapitated. Martian's guts pouring out of his stomach and torso area. You see Wonder Woman's head getting snapped backwards. Batman's got, or not, whatever
the
his name
guy.
is, Nightman or whatever the fuck his name is. He gets his chest punched through his back. The green guy, the guy that has to swallow the trinket, Green Ghost or whatever his name is, has to swallow or loses his head. So like he can't swallow anything anymore. So, but yeah, basically, then you see the Immortal. He's like, you coward, show yourself. And then he looks and it says, you, I never liked you. So it's like, obviously somebody knows. And then he gets his head punched off, which I thought was funny. And then you see the next page is Omni-Man, Invincible's dad, saying the feeling was mutual.
And just blood everywhere.
He's covered with blood. So that's how that shit ends. That's pretty much how the series ends, with like, what the fuck is going on? I thought his dad was a good guy, but he just murdered the Justice League pretty one-handedly. Didn't have any issues or anything. And then, of course, he's like Omni-Man now. Like the fourth issue starts of this, so it's issue 8 of the series.
Yeah, this is kind of like an epilogue.
Yeah, it's kind of epilogue to what just happened, and we see like, they asked Omni-Man to give the speech at the funeral of this, Guardians of the Globe, and he's like, it's like, oh fuck, he was the guy that killed him. He's like, they will never be a better superhero team. I knew all of them.
They were I love these guys. I loved
them all. They were like, he was like my brother or whatever. Like Fishman especially. Like, just he's giving them all this sappy shit. And you're the whole time as a reader, you're like, oh my God, he fucking murdered all of them. And then like, so Invincible goes to the funeral and he comes back and Adam Eve is on his bed crying. And obviously we get to see what happened with that. And that's where she says, it was horrible. It was Rex with Kate. And there was more than one of her. And so, like, we see that she's with, trying to get consoled by Mark. She, like, lays down on his lap, and the mom comes in to be like, Mark, did you? And then, like, she sees from the backside, because his back is facing the door, and her head is on his lap. So it kind of looks like bad. Like she was giving him BJ or something. And so like the mom's like, what the fuck?
Both of you get downstairs.
Yeah, get downstairs. Both of you. And so like then like they're gonna have to give him the sex talk or whatever. And he's like, I'm so sorry that this is happening. And she's like, it's fine. But like she's very understanding
she is true, yeah.
I thought that was fun. But she's like cool with it. She's like going with it. But basically they give them the talk like, look, we know, you're horny teenagers or whatever, and like because you're super, we can't really do shit. So like yeah, like that's how it ends up. Is like they're just like we can't do anything, but please be safe or whatever, and don't do anything stupid. And he's like, I told you, Mom, we're just friends, And so basically, that's kind of like the main storyline of this. You see Mark get some more like time as a superhero, but the whole time you're kind of like in this issue trying to figure out like what's the deal with the dad? Why did he kill them? What's going on? Also, I really like. There's a great character in this. What's his name? The demon. I think it's like Demon Detective or something. Like, and he's a guy going around. Apparently, I wish this was a real character that had its own series because it's very cool. He's a demon who is trying to have penance for all the souls he's taken or whatever, or like all the bad he's done. So he solves crimes for justice, so that it kind of balances the scale a little bit better towards good. So hopefully he won't go back to hell. But he like escaped hell. And he can stay on Earth as long as he does good stuff. And then if he does bad stuff, then he's got to go back to hell kind of thing. So, but in this, as you were saying, at the funeral, when they show the funeral, we see Savage Dragon.
Super Patriot. And I only know these characters because in the 90s, they hardcore pushed the IDW comics. Image Comics, pardon me. They hardcore pushed these. And then, like, because I remember my mom, like, but back before I was like picking my own comics, my mom would be like, I grabbed you some comics from the store that day. And it was like Spider-Man and then Savage Dragon. And
I can't believe your mom bought you Savage Dragon.
Well, she probably would just like...
Yeah, they were just like, oh, look.
He's a cool looking character.
Or this is a comic book.
Yeah.
Surely there's nothing bad in this. Savage Dragon is not a children's comic book. Especially like nowadays, I heard it's basically like super sexually explicit. So
yeah.
I don't know when that happened.
I remember seeing an almost fully naked... Savage, like from behind the butt.
Yeah, his butt. But I'm saying they show like hardcore nudity in the new issue.
Yeah, because also this was the first comic I remember like reading through this, and it was risque for sure. But I was like, oh, this is cool. It was, like I can't believe my mom got me this. But I specifically remember because
look at that butt. That's a hard butt.
And they like the female. They have very close to naked females. But also in that comic, there's always ads for other comics and stuff. That one, I would see ads for another comic that I was like, I want to read that one, Witchblade.
Oh, yeah. Everybody loves Witchblade.
Yeah. I all I knew was, like, I saw there were figures that, like, I guess McFarlane Toys made at the time.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa, those are some curvy ladies.
Great costume.
And then...
Gotta love that costume.
I would get ads for it, and I was like, that's just the cover?
I'll be in my bunk.
So
that's the cover.
So I knew there was something a little different about these comics.
That's amazing. I remember one of the few times I ever went to a comic book store when I was a little kid. Because like for some reason I missed going to the actual store. I was like my love for comics came from watching like the Batman animated series and the X-Men TV show and stuff. So like that's where my love of comics came from. Not actually reading comics when I was a little kid. So when my brother, who did read comics, went to a store once, I remember going to like a card shop because that's what they were back then.
Yeah,
it was in
baseball
Las Vegas.
Cards and
it was baseball cards and then comic books. So we went to a card shop. I think it was called like Cactus Cards or something because it was in Las Vegas. And like I remember like looking and just seeing like Evangeline or one of those big, cheesecake, large-breasted, characters that looks a lot like Witchblade or something, and being like, Mom, can I get this one? And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, no, you can't get this one. Like, and then it turned out there was like a guy signing his books there, and I'm sure this was like, I don't know who it was, but no one important, I'm pretty sure. If it was, I wish I had him, but I don't have him anymore. But it was like, he had issues 1 and 2 of his comic. It was very large-breasted women and full-figured, we'll say, ladies, in very skimpy outfits on the covers of these. And both me and my brother got signed copies because they were like, he was there. And we were like, please. And Mom was like, you ain't reading that. Like, I'm not letting you read it. I'm like, I just want to get it signed. You know, it's worth money if it's signed. Like when I was a kid. And no, like I just wanted that comic because there was large-breasted ladies in it. So yeah. 90s comics were a bit, that's what Image and stuff was. There was a lot of cheesecake back then.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. 90s.
Even DC and stuff. If you read like the Wonder Woman arc where like Artemis takes over for Wonder Woman and stuff, there's like very skimpy clothing and a lot of that stuff. So.
Yeah, like you said, like
Catwoman
the
at the time, Jim Belant, Catwoman.
Course. In the 90s, that's where that classic every cover everybody talks about Spider Woman, where she's super curvy, but also
that's not. When is that from? That's from the 2000s.
I thought it was the 90s.
No, that's from 2000s. That came out when I was at the comic book store.
Okay,
I remember because I was like, it was on our shelves and people were talking about it.
Well, just
yes,
very very curvy women on covers to entice people.
But main covers. That was a variant cover that I think is Manara is. He's like a Italian or French artist or something. Did that Spider Woman, but this was like the main covers were like, that's the selling point.
Yeah,
it's cheesecake on the cover, and there you go. So, yeah, so that was a '90s thing for sure. But I don't remember what we were talking about before. You were talking about Witchblade and then Savage Dragon. Okay, that's what it was. We're going back.
This is a tangent.
I don't know how we got off, but anyway.
So the funeral.
So that the funeral for these people.
Omni-Man's like, I really like these guys. I miss them. They were good peoples.
Yeah, and then like some people attack. Then of course all the heroes are here.
It's the butler.
Oh, that's right.
The guy that lost his powers.
One of the plot points was, someone stole this super suit that someone was working on, and then it turns out the butler, like the Alfred of the guy who lost his powers. That like they were auditioning for his position with the Guardians of the Globe. He was the guy that stole his super suit, and so then he like tries to attack, and then it's like,
I'll get you for what you did. I loved him.
But then it's like, didn't that technically save his life? He would have been murdered with all these other people.
Yeah,
but apparently he didn't think about that. So, but anyway, like very basically. As the reader, you're sitting there going like, "What the fuck is this?" Kind of thing. Like, what did the dad do? What's going on, and why? Why did he do it? But like, we don't know. Like, they're not giving us any of that shit. One of the moments I thought was fucking hilarious in this that I forgot about. There's a scene where Mark's got a friend named William from high school, and he finds out that he figures out he's invincible because he's like, "Dude, you're at school in your costume, like." It's you. Like, I can totally tell. And, like, obviously Adam Eve is Eve, so, like, I can see.
She doesn't wear a mask. Your hair is sticking out.
Like. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So, of course. So, basically, he, like, goes to his house after this, and William's like, hey, so now that I know, can we? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, points up. And then the next panel is Invincible, like annoyingly carrying William, who's having a blast, and Mark is like, "This is so gay." Like, I thought that was hilarious. It was very, of its time, joke,
yeah.
But I thought it was funny because William is so elated, flying in his arms, and Mark's just like,
and Mark is holding him. Think like Superman carries Wonder Woman.
Yeah, or like Superman does not carry Wonder Woman.
I'm sorry, not Wonder Woman. Lois. I was thinking Lois.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just thought that was funny that's how that happened or whatever. So, and there's not really much else that happens in this issue. They're setting up, basically it's a lot of setup for other stuff. You see one of the kids the kid that survived the teacher who put a bomb on his chest. They never figured out how to remove the bomb on his chest. I think they maybe got it like disarmed, but he still got like this metal organically grafted into his chest or whatever. So they set him up, and then like for future stuff, pretty much that's it. So and then like there's some grave robbers who are robbing the graves of the superheroes or whatever, and then like they're like, man, why'd they have to bury him so deep? And they dug this whole time, and then like they're like, we gotta hurry up before like other people figure it out that like, oh, they could like rob these graves. And then all of a sudden the two clone twins from the first
before,
run or the first 4 issues. They get there and they're like, well, thanks for all the help. Like that would have taken us a long time. And then that's like how the issue ends. So that's pretty much the whole trade. Like, and the main thing that I wanted you to read the 8 issues for both trades is because this series doesn't really take off until Omni-Man murders everybody.
Yeah, until the dad does that. Yeah.
And so that's why I was like, okay, you have to at least see him murder everybody.
The 2 little twists coming into this, or surprises, when Adam Eve sees her boyfriend with the other thing, and you're like, okay, that's a pull apart for her to be sad, and then Invincible, maybe something would happen there. And then and then they've been talking about this thing, and like people are auditioning for this Justice League Society. And then we see them all a little bit. I'm like, oh, cool. We're getting like who they are. And then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The whole issue is like a little, a 3-page introduction of each character, and then they get murdered.
And they give you a little bit of each of their backstory. Like it's important.
Yeah, and then they murder them.
And then they murder them all.
So I will say, so I did watch the first 3 episodes of the series. The series is I guess is coming out in 3-episode chunks.
Nice.
So I watched it to compare it to see. And it does a really good job of pacing. Like the book itself took 8 issues to get to that, scene where the dad's killing him. Where the series, it's like that's the end of the first episode or whatever. So you get a little bit more explanation and, or like more discovery, less time figuring out, or like less time with like superhero learning.
Is it fairly accurate?
It is. Things are in different places and whatnot, and
just
for storytelling. Sure. Like I said, the first issue ends with the dad murdering all these people and stuff. So, and you definitely get a bigger, introduction to the Guardians of the Globe, stuff like that.
I asked because I might go watch that just to see it and get it out.
No, you
tonight.
Should.
So and then go back and read the next, because I want to know what happens.
Oh next, read the next one. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do I think a little review of them tonight.
Oh, nice.
So be on the lookout for that, everybody on YouTube. We'll have that, and then but yeah, I just thought it was fun and a good way to tell it, kind of thing, because obviously different mediums require different storytelling. If you had episode after episode of him learning how to use his powers, his dad and him playing catch,
after 2 episodes, I'd be like, why this is boring.
I almost did that with WandaVision, like, because WandaVision took 2 episodes to really get going, where they're playing.
I think they realized that because they put the first 2 out together.
Oh, okay, did they? Yeah. I didn't know how they released it, so I watched it later than everybody else. But yeah, like as I was watching it, I was like, first episode, okay, it's a black and white, like I Love Lucy kind of show or whatever, and then the second episode, okay, it's I Dream of Jeannie.
It doesn't help that you're not. Those also not like your favorite characters. Matt hates on them, and
I don't hate on them.
I know you
just don't. They're not my favorite characters.
It's gonna fall back on me where I am such a Marvel guy, and I'm like, I love Wanda, I love Vision, like they're cool side characters. They're side characters for me. They're not my favorite ones, but like I love all of them.
I prefer the Ultimate Universe Wanda, where she's having sex with her brother. I don't know if you've read that.
I have not read that one.
That's a joke, but that was a big thing in the Ultimate Universe. Is they're actually a couple, Quicksilver and her.
But they're not.
They're a couple,
but they're not brother and sister.
No, they are brother.
Oh. Okay then. Well,
the Ultimate Verse is a lot different.
The Ultimate Verse has different things people can do.
Hey, if Pornhub has taught us anything,
I don't know.
It's that a lot of people got that weird kink. All right. Anyway,
what are you looking at?
No. What is the Earth looking
just from
at,
what
John?
You've seen. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you talking?
You saw a title of, or like a section. Gotcha.
John is digging a hole. It's very
for you. I'm trying to help you out of your hole.
He's digging a hole for me. It's deeper the longer.
I've never seen anything like that. I don't even know what this hub of porn is.
Talking about. Anywho,
what would you give it?
So, what would I give Invincible?
I'm giving it to you.
I'm going to give. Okay, so I'm going to grade this like I haven't read 50 plus issues of this. I'm going to grade it like this is what I've read of it, and if I had not seen the Otley artwork and all that stuff, so I'm giving it a fair shot of like getting a higher grade. So I would give this because it's such a fast read that like even though it is a by numbers story at first, and it's a little bit like, all right, when are we gonna why would anybody like this book? It seems pretty standard. Once the little peppering of the not so standard stuff comes in, then you're like, huh, all right, and it like really intrigues you and wants to bring you forward. Then when his dad murders everybody, that's like the big like, what the fuck? So I'm gonna give this an 8, like a solid 8. I will say, if knowing that the art was better in the future, I would give it a 7 probably. But I'm grading this on its own. The art was serviceable. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it wasn't bad, especially if you hadn't seen the Otley work first. So if just on its own, I would give it an 8. But knowing that Otley's better, a 7 is what I would do if I had future powers or whatever. So, but yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 just based on these 8 issues. Because it does get, I will say this, everything that is set up pays off. Like Kirkman really sets stuff up that like that robot that burst through the school.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck was that? And he kills itself, but then you're like, and they move on real quick. Like, anyway, back to school or whatever. But like that gets set up.
That comes around.
That comes back. Same with everything else comes back. Omni-Man gets explained. Way fucking cool storylines come from that. Like everything gets a payoff. So the kid with the bomb on his chest, that gets a payoff. Everything gets a payoff.
Nice.
So Kirkman really, really develops this world and pays off all these little things he puts in.
Nice.
And that doesn't always happen. Like, I will say it really doesn't happen in like a lot of the image books early on didn't pay off for a lot of the stuff that they were trying to do and everything. So like to see this is like a writer who's like fully, I know exactly the story I want to tell. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to, and he's like putting the seeds in and then he's paying them off. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what you want. So, yeah. What would you give it, John?
I'm going to go with, like you said, the first one, it kind of, their pace fine, but the first one, it's kind of like, okay, like there's some interesting little things going on, not what, but yeah, it's when the dad kills the
that's like where it really takes off.
Yeah, like that's just like whoa. The like you said, the art is serviceable. There's nothing spectacular, but it's fine.
Yeah,
it gets the story across. I would say overall I would probably give it a 7. Like I would definitely I want to keep reading this. I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah,
now that all the shit's happening. But I just remember
I'm glad that we read 2. I'm glad you suggested that.
Yes, because if we just read the first trade out, you'd be like, it's fine.
Like, yeah, it's okay.
It's like a 6 or 5 or something.
Yeah.
Just because nothing really happens in it too much. I mean, there's a little bit of story stuff, but like, it's kind of like watching, I'll just bring you back to the first season of Buffy. We're like, yeah, okay, there's some good stuff in it. But then it doesn't really pick up till like second or third seasons. And then you're like into it by then or whatever. Whereas this, I was like, you have to read the part where he kills the Justice League, basically, like, or the Guardians of the Globe. And so, yeah, I agree. Like, 7 is a good one. I'm gonna give it an 8 just because this sets up so much stuff, and I feel like with he like builds this world really well in these 8 issues, so that you get like complacent and you're like, yeah, I know what's going to happen. I know what to expect. And then, holy shit, that's not what I thought was going to happen. So, like, I think he does that well. So,
nice.
I'm going to give it an 8. You're going to give it a 7. Like I said, I'm going to do a review of the first 3 issues episodes of the Amazon Prime animated show of this. And look for that on YouTube tonight or tomorrow, something like this week sometime. Yeah. And then this week, I think we're going to read American Vampire, which is by Scott Snyder. It's a Vertigo title. I think Raphael Albuquerque did the art.
Looks cool.
And I have never read it. John has never read it, so it just looked cool. And it's a Vertigo title that it was coming out when I was at the comic book store, so I remember putting the issues out, but I never read it or anything. So, yeah. So that's what we're doing next week. And we really do appreciate all you guys commenting and like responding to us and giving us suggestions. We had a couple of our listeners give us suggestions, so thank you to Otaku Mike from the Otakuology podcast and YouTube channel, because he recommended us some manga from when we read Scott Pilgrim. We had asked, does anybody have any manga that's just like a one shot or like a good just single story one? So he gave us a couple options for that. So we have those coming up in the pipeline, and I will mention that again. I will mention his name again when we read those as well. But check him out. I actually listened to it. It's fun. It's a lot about manga and collecting just stuff in general. So it's not just about comics or manga. But it's funny. He's doing a series called Mike's Minis. And
nice.
I was like, Mike, I see what you're doing there. That's copyrighted. But but no, go feel free. Hey, anytime people want to throw their love out for comics any way you want, if we set down a little template. I don't know if that's what he did, but I'm assuming because Matt's Minis, Mike's Minis, it's close. We both have M names, so
everything that we do influences other things. We know that now.
I assume, like you said, that's why Milestone's back. That's why
think locally, act globally.
Yes, exactly. So thank you very much, Otakuology and Mike specifically. And we will see you on the next one.
Yep. Don't forget to check out our Twitter, YouTube, Instagram channel.
All that stuff.
All that good stuff. Rate us 5 stars on Apple. I had to remember.
Apple, iTunes podcast, stuff, whatever.
Them apples.
Yeah. And also, like we said, we have a YouTube now. We're trying to put out content at least every other week. I'm doing a reading vlog, but I try to throw in other stuff like we did the Snyder Cut review.
Yeah, we might do some more reviews and reactions.
Yeah, we might be doing some trailer reactions and stuff. So it all depends if
what you guys want.
What you guys want, let us know. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.